Hey there, homeschool reading community, and welcome to this Facebook Live about the biggest secret to teaching a child to read, even if you're not a trained reading teacher. I am so excited that you're here because this is one of the subjects that I am the most passionate about. I am a former classroom teacher myself and current homeschool parent, and so I have seen this from both sides, and I talk to homeschool parents almost every day who are so intimidated by the process of teaching their kids to read because our culture and our society tells us that the process of teaching a child to read is super hard, and that if you're not a reading teacher and you don't have years and years of experience, you're not qualified to teach your child to read. And this is not true. And so today I want to talk about the biggest secret to teaching your child to read at home. And I just want to encourage you that this is something that you can do, that you are qualified. And so I'm really excited to share this with you today. So, today we're talking about the biggest secret to teaching your child to read, even if you aren't a reading teacher. And I want to start by sharing a study with you. If you've been around here for a while, you know that I love the scientific research and just hearing what the research has to say about teaching our kids and about learning to read. And I think that as homeschool parents and as teachers, understanding what the research says can be really, really valuable for us because it just makes the process of teaching easier, right? So if we're doing the things that people have researched and have found to be the easiest and to work the best, then it's going to make teaching easier for us and it's going to make learning easier for our kids. So if we can study and learn what the research says, that can be really helpful. And as I was doing some research this past week, I was drawn to or reminded of a study that's really one of my favorites and one that I want to really quickly share with you. So, this was published in 2018, and they were studying in elementary schools what happens if you give kids specialized teachers for different subjects. So think of like American high school model for school, right? Where like you have one teacher for math and then a different teacher for science and then a different teacher for English and a different teacher for social studies or whatever it is. They were trying that in elementary schools and they wanted to see if it would help the kids be able to learn better. And they thought that if they gave the kids teachers that were really specialized, that really knew what they were talking about, like the math expert is going to come in and teach the kids math, surely they're going to be better at math after that, right? And what they found, I want to read you a couple of sentences from the study. It said, teacher specialization decreases student achievement, decreases student attendance, and increases student behavior problems. So, what they found was actually the reverse, that the kids who had the specialized math teacher who was like the math expert did not do as well at math. And the kids who had the specialized reading teacher who was the reading expert did not do as well at reading. And then they said the benefits of specialization driven by sorting teachers into a subset of subjects based on comparative advantage. So, this process of giving them the expert is outweighed by inefficient pedagogy due to having fewer interactions with each student. Did you catch that? For us as homeschool parents, I feel like this study is so encouraging. So they found that in these classrooms, giving the kids a math expert was not as important as giving them a teacher who really knew them. For us as homeschool parents, this is why we are qualified, because we are the teacher that really knows our kids. So you might not be the reading expert, and that's okay because you know your child better than anyone else does. You know your child better than the reading expert does. And so there's something to be said for that, and that's an advantage for your child. That's an advantage for your child. And so I really want you to hear that because I think that when we're teaching our kids how to read, especially, we get so in our heads about how important reading is. And it is important. I'm not saying it's not, but we get so focused on how important reading is and how important it is that our kids learn how to read now and how important it is that our kids be able to learn by reading and not just like read to learn and not just learn to read, right? And we get so focused on that. And we get so focused on really, really, really wanting to share all of those special books with our kids that maybe we loved as kids. And we really want them to love reading and we want them to be strong readers. And all of those are really admirable goals. But I think it's really important just to remember that we are qualified and that we can do this. And that we have been teaching our kids things their entire life. We've been teaching them important things, right? We were the ones probably that potty trained our kids, right? We were the ones that were there when they were learning how to talk, when they were learning how to walk, when the majority of their brain growth happened between ages 0 and 3. We were their primary teacher. And so it's just important for us to remember as homeschool parents that we are so qualified to do this because we know our kids. And ultimately, when it comes down to it, you're not really teaching reading, you're teaching your child how to read. And there's a big, big difference there. And so for us, as parents, there are a lot of things that we can do to help us get that specialized knowledge in reading that we might need in order to be able to teach our child to read. But it's so much harder to get that understanding of your child that you just innately have from being their parent. I think so many times people think that parents are at a disadvantage when teaching their children. But in reality, I've seen it from both sides. I've seen it from the parent side and I've seen it from the teacher side. And I'm here to tell you it's the teachers that are at a disadvantage. Because the teachers might know their subject, but they don't know your child. You know your child and you might not know the subject. But it's so much easier to learn the subject than it is to learn your child. And you already know your child. So you already have the hard piece. We just have to figure out the easy piece. Okay, so I'm going to hop off my soapbox. Elizabeth says, totally agree. We are our child's best advocate. Yes. Yes. I think there's really something to be said for that because ultimately there are some fantastic teachers out there and there are some really amazing people that are giving so much in our schools. But when push comes to shove, they get to leave that school at whatever time they leave that school and go home and have a life that's separate from their students, right? So they at some point that person is no longer going to be their student and they're going to live a life separate from them, right? But your child is a part of your life forever. And so you are so much more invested in their results and in their success than any teacher ever could be. And that's not to say that our teachers aren't fantastic, but it's just to say that our parents are even a whole nother level, right? We have a whole nother level of investment in our kids. Okay, so let's talk some specifics because I know that it's great to say that we are qualified, but we need to talk about how to take that and use it, right? So I wanted to share 3 ways that you can use that relationship that you have with your child to really be successful in teaching them to read and to really use that to your advantage. So the first thing is that you really want to create a culture of reading in your home. And we want to use our influence that we have on our kids to be able to help them develop a love of reading for themselves. There's a bunch of different ways that you can do this. One is just to spend time reading yourself and let your child see that. So choose books that you enjoy and read for pleasure. Spend some time looking at reading the news, either on your tablet or in a, whatever, in a magazine. Do those kinds of things. Look for something that you can learn about and learn it by reading. Any kind of reading that you can be doing as a model for your kids just shows them that it's important, that it's an important part of your life, and that it's an important part of life as an adult. Also, you want to spend time reading to your child on a regular basis. I know everybody knows this, so we're not going to go into a lot of depth here, but there's a lot of research that says just how important it is to read to your child and the benefits that they get out of that. So really make sure that it's a part of your family's routine to be doing reading time regularly. If it's not a part of your family's routine or you feel like you're not as consistent as you would like, I would recommend finding an anchor. So something that is a consistent part of your family's routine, and then do your read aloud time either right before or right after. So for example, you probably eat dinner every night. So maybe right after dinner would be a good time to do a family read aloud, because every night when dinner gets done, you have that automatic trigger built into your schedule to know that it's time to do that. Being really consistent can really help. And then you want to make sure that you're taking your child to the library on a regular basis. Give them an opportunity to choose new books. Help them learn how to choose books for themselves that they're interested in and that are an appropriate level for them. You can have conversations both about the complexity of the book and also about the topic of the book in terms of figuring out if it's appropriate, and teach your child how to look at a book and decide that. And then just really spend some time just working on creating that culture of reading. If reading is important to you And if it's something that you really make a priority for yourself and for your family, your kids are going to see that, and that some of that at least is going to rub off on them. So that's the first thing. We really want to create a culture of reading in our house. Another thing is that we really want to use our knowledge of our child. We talked about in the study about how the thing that really made the difference for those kids that were in the elementary classroom with the same teacher was that they were spending more time with that teacher and that that teacher was getting to know them better. And so we can use that knowledge of our child to help us as we're teaching our kids how to read too. A big way to do this is to tie in your kids' interests as much as possible. So, when you're practicing reading with your child, can you find books that are based on topics that your child is interested in to have them read to you? Check out your library, see if what they've got as far as resources. Look for things that are going to be fun and exciting for your child. You can also try to include their interests in other ways. So, if you're doing a hands on practice activity and you need manipulatives, for example, can you use your child's action figures or their favorite kind of like breakfast cereal? Or like what can you use that will help get them a little bit invested in this activity? Holidays are also really great for this. We have a couple coming up this spring. We have St. Patrick's Day in just a couple weeks, and then Easter coming up after that. So, what kind of little spring or St. Patrick's Day or Easter themed thing can you bring into your reading lesson to make it a little bit more fun and exciting for your kids? There's things coming up next week with Reading Better Together for that, so be on the lookout for those. But just anything that you can do to help your child incorporate their interests into what they're reading is going to be really, really helpful with keeping them motivated. Another thing that you can do is think about their learning style. So, even without a lot of training in this, you probably have some ideas about learning style. So, basically, in a nutshell, there's three. There's visual, your child sees best by looking at something. Auditory, they learn best by hearing. Or kinesthetic, they learn best by doing. And if you just think about each of your kids and think about sort of their personalities, you can probably get an idea of which one they are. So if you have one of those kids where you tell them something and then you have to tell them 18 more times and then maybe they might remember to do it, they're probably not an auditory learner. They might be more of a visual learner. So just those kind of clues you can use to help you get an idea about that. And then try to use those learning styles. So, if your child is a kinesthetic learner, rather than having them spend time reading out of a book, can you have them build words using magnets or have them learn letter names by writing the letters in a sand tray? You know, any of those kinds of things can help your child just to be able to incorporate their learning style and to be able to learn better and faster. Another thing that you can do is really think about how your child is motivated. And this is a little bit different than their learning style. You want to think about what it is that really gets your child excited to do something. So, my oldest is super motivated by challenges. Anytime I say the word challenge, he's game for whatever it is. So, if there's ever something that I don't want him to do, I can always say, I wonder if you're up for a challenge. Do you think you can do this thing in 5 minutes? I'll set a timer. Ready, go. And he's almost always game to try whatever the thing is. My daughter is very much a perfectionist, and so that does not work for her at all. She does not want any part to do with the challenge because she's concerned that she might not rise to the challenge. But my son is always excited to challenge himself and to see what challenge he might be up for. So, just knowing those kinds of things about how your child is motivated can be really helpful. If you're feeling a little bit deer in the headlights right now, it can be really helpful to just spend some time to sit and think and journal about each of your kids. So maybe either tonight or like tomorrow during your homeschool time, even give them an assignment to work on and then just spend a few minutes observing them working and really thinking about these things, thinking about what their motivation, what their interests are, what their learning style is, and then what kinds of things motivate them. And those three can be really helpful. So that's the second thing. Use your knowledge of your child. And all of those are just ways that you can encourage and motivate your child to want to read. And then the first one, of course, was creating a culture of reading in your house. The last one that I wanted to share is that it's really important to get the knowledge that you don't have. So at the beginning, we talked about how the reading teachers are an expert in reading, but not necessarily an expert in their students, and about how you are an expert in your child, in your student, but might not be an expert in reading. If that's the case, I want to help you to be able to get the knowledge that you need in order to have both pieces and to be ready to teach your child to read. And so that's why I'm offering that 6 steps to raise a reader class coming up next week. There's going to be 3 different times to watch the class, and I would love for you to join me because I'm going to be walking through the knowledge piece, the 6 steps that it takes to go from very beginner to fluent independent reader who loves books. And we're going to be talking through each of them. I'm going to be sharing the specifics, the how of what exactly it is to teach, and we're going to be diving deep. So I would love for you to join me at that class. You can grab your ticket in the link in the description of the video, and you're going to want to make sure that you go over to that link and sign up for a ticket. Again, the class is not happening here in Facebook. It's going to be happening over in Zoom. And so you are going to need to go and enter your name and email address on that page and choose one of the 3 times to sign up for a ticket. You're going to get your Zoom link emailed to you. And then at the time of the class, you'll click on the link and it will take you to the Zoom room where the class is going to be held. So you won't need Facebook access for the class. You will need a Zoom account, which is free. If you need help with that, you can put a note in the comments, like let me know, and I can send you some information about how to get Zoom if you don't have Zoom. But you're going to need that link. So make sure that you go in the description of the video, click the link, put your name and email address, and choose one of the times. If you cannot come to any of those times, if none of those work for you, that's okay. You will get a replay emailed to you as well. So just make sure that you go and sign up for a ticket on one of them, and then I'll be emailing a replay afterwards. Also, if you have been on the fence about the Reading Better Together curriculum, or if you have been waiting for the curriculum to be available so that you can get in, I know there are a bunch of moms that are waiting because you have been messaging me. Thank you for your patience. The time is coming. Next week on Monday, when the class is happening, the curriculum is going to be available. So there will be more information as well at the class about how to purchase the curriculum and what's included. And so if you have been waiting to get the curriculum, you're definitely going to want to be at the class live. If you guys have questions about anything, about teaching your child to read, about the class, go ahead and drop those in the comments. I'm going to check and make sure that I didn't miss anybody here. And I don't think I did, but I'm going to just double check. I am super excited about the class. I hope that you will be planning to join me next week. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm really, really looking forward to sharing the 6 steps with you because I think that as parents, we have such an advantage when we know our kids so well. And so when we can pair that with the knowledge about how to teach reading, and we have both of those pieces, that makes us just so powerful in the lives of our kids to be able to teach this really, really critical skill. So I'm super excited to see you next week. Please grab your ticket and plan to join me, and I will see you then. Have a great weekend, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this video, which was recorded live in the Homeschool Reading Community Group. This is a free Facebook group where I share tips and advice about homeschooling and teaching reading. You'll also find community with other homeschool moms like you, plus freebies, giveaways, parties, and more. I would love for you to join us over at the Homeschool Reading Community. Make sure that you check out the link in the description of this video for all the details.